Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. In this video, I'll talk about a topic that's been requested, which is relationships. So if that's something you're interested in, please stay tuned. Just to give some background on this topic, I have to rewind to 2008 when, right before I met my husband. I was a freshman in college and was just focused on being pre-med, and then come February of 2009, I met my husband through a family friend of his, and we started talking and it became a friendship. And by, I guess, May, we both knew that we wanted to be in a more serious relationship. So he met my family, I met his family, and we did long distance, actually our entire relationship before we even got married. So that was 3 years. And I feel like since the relationship was based on friendship and based on the fact that both of us were Christians, so we shared that common ground, we were able to make it work. Being in college is different because I was just 18 and I was still a kid, right? So I wasn't really thinking about marriage per se, but I knew that I wanted to get married. And I don't really believe in the one, but I knew that there was something special there within the first month or two, which seems weird. It might seem like puppy love, but I really thought that he was the one for me. Some things that stood out to me about him were that he was a man of God, and he just seemed so mature and always positive. Things didn't really bother him, and he just was able to uplift me, and I felt like I became a better person because of him. I feel like the best relationships are those with people who are positive and aren't going to tear you down and are just there to compliment you. And you're not dependent on that person, but they compliment you. Whatever you're weak in, they're probably strong in, and whatever they're weak in, you balance that out and you make them strong and you pull them up, as opposed to tearing each other down and all that drama. So that gives some background. We were courting, yes, courting. I'm very old-fashioned, and so is he, and we were courting, getting to know each other for about 1.5 years before he proposed. And then he proposed on Christmas Day when both of the families were together after 1.5 years. And I was expecting it, but not that soon, because I was still in college, and of course I said yes, but the engagement was 1.5 years, so that gave us a good amount of time to get to know each other, even though we were still doing long distance. I actually don't think it was that hard. He was in Louisiana at first, and then he moved up to New York to be closer to me. So we saw each other every 1 to 2 months, and I'd never done long distance before, so I didn't know what it was supposed to be like. I don't think it was that hard because I was in school. I was really focused on being pre-med and trying to get into medical school. So it wasn't really that big of a deal to be in a long distance relationship. He was in college, he was graduating, and even when we were engaged, he was working on his master's. So we were both in school, we were both doing what we needed to do to get to the next step in our career. And then I got married right out of college. I was 21 years old, and of course some people thought that was too young to get married, and looking back, maybe it was, but I don't regret that decision. And he's looking at me right now. Why are you peeking in? Just a disclaimer, I would love to have my husband on here, but due to the nature of his work, he can't be on camera, but he's like peeking in here, looking as I'm recording. Anyway, so I was saying that I got married right out of college, and I still feel like I was pretty immature. Not that I was messing around or didn't know what I wanted out of life, but just the mindset. I hadn't even paid my own bills yet. I'd never lived alone, lived by myself, you know, the things that you do when you're by yourself and you're considered an adult. But that's okay. After we got married, that's when we were living with each other, so all of the quirks and the weirdness, that's when it came out. And I feel like that time was, I mean, I'm laughing about it now because I feel like I didn't really get to see all these weird things that my husband did until we moved in together, and I'm sure he'd say the same thing about me. But that's where you really learn each other and what makes the other person weird. So that first, I would say the first year was definitely a transitioning period for me. I never lived by myself. I was always with my family, and I felt really sad. Of course I was happy to be married, but I felt sad because now I was on my own, away from my family, and you're just thinking things aren't going to be the same. Is the relationship with your parents going to be the same? And the answer is no. Once you get married, the Bible says that the two shall become one, and that's really what happens. You're building your own family, and it's not that you're forgetting your old family, but you are creating your own home and learning what's important for you as a unit. And I think that could be an issue in a marriage, dealing with both sides of the family. I'm not saying that we had major issues or problems, but you are merging two families from different backgrounds, unless you were fortunate to grow up together and be high school sweethearts or knew each other your whole life. But we didn't, and I think bridging those two families and meshing those two families, it's something that we're still working on, and I think we will be working on the duration of our marriage, because each individual from each family has their own personality, and the way that I interact with my sisters is different from the way that I interact with my brothers-in-law, anyway, my new brothers. So yeah, and even the relationship with my parents versus my in-laws, they're just different. I don't really see it as, well, now you have to cut yourself off from one side of the family and you're only talking to one side. I try and give as much attention to both sides of the family, and I think that fosters good relationships where you're open with each other. Especially when you're young like this, you're able to build those relationships over the course of a lifetime, so that you can get to that point where you're close with the in-laws as well. But I'm kind of going off on a tangent. But the first year of our marriage, we lived together. And I was working on my master's in public health while he was working. And then in March, I got accepted to medical school. So, and in Nashville, Tennessee, and we were thinking, okay, we just started our marriage. We moved in together. He was just starting or in his first year and a half of his new job. And we were thinking, okay, we're going to have to go back to this long distance thing again.